Some top European players duking it out in the bottom left on 16-bit. From the Woven, is that the name of a team? I'm not 100% sure, but it's Hellraiser. One of those players that always crops up in many of the online tournaments and WCS. Hasn't really made as big of a splash as I'm sure he would hope, but top Grandmaster and competitive, as evidenced by the fact he's playing against Team Liquid's Snute in the top right. Now, since we're playing on 16-bit and since it's Snute, it's time for me to be very biased. Snute is the most patient Zerg player. I think I'm pretty comfortable saying he's the most patient Zerg player potentially in the world. He might not be the best, not the best micro or best macro, even though very, very good. But there is no... Before anyone... I guess Stefano's up there as well, depending on the situation. But if there's a player who sees that the higher percentage play is dragging the game out to 40, 50, an hour, minutes... I know that didn't make sense. He's one of the best at it. Like, if there's a 3% better chance of winning if you spend 30 more minutes getting that victory, he'll do it. And one of the hardest parts of Zerg, especially against Protoss, against things like carriers and all of that, is controlling your units in a way that you don't just get rolled by Storm and Archons and the carriers and a mothership. Having Vipers and Infestors and Queens and Corruptors and Broodlords and Spore Crawlers, oh my. Now, who knows? Maybe Hellraiser just does a 2-base charge lot all in and that doesn't matter. But I have a sneaking suspicion that that probably isn't going to end the game. We are on 16-bit once again. A map where you essentially, especially for Protoss and Terran, got a free, quote-unquote, back base where if you wall off the front, Zerglings and Roaches are not really going to threaten you. And if they do, you failed at scouting in a very serious way. So how does Snute handle it? This is customary for Zerg on maps like this, not to expand to that safe base, but instead expand outwards so you can get kind of a foothold, you get something down your ramp so you don't get contained, because, well, for Terran and Protoss, it's a lot safer against Zerg to have the back base. For Zerg, it's a liability. A Warp Prism or Oracles come in, Medivacs, things like that, which is why we have Snute not even bothering to take that base. I think most players like to take the southern base down here as opposed to the back bases of the third, but just in time to make me look like I don't know what I'm talking about, Snute's going to be taking the pocket. Now, it looks like one Overlord was killed out. Is this a high ground? I don't think I've ever seen this exact scenario. It is. You can't see it. That's what high ground does. So, Hellraiser going out of his way to make sure Snute doesn't get any scouting info. I mean, the Stalker in and of itself is scouting information. Just seeing that that is indeed the case. And it's going to be a Stargate behind, like, not some incredibly crazy play. It looks like he rushed it out, maybe. No, that Oracle's coming out of the standard time. I actually built a Zealot behind. He really wanted that gas to be able to get a Stargate. Because seeing a Zealot is quite uncommon. They're just not very good. Gonna go down, maybe try to take a setup for a third. Snute. Definitely one of the... Oh, wow. No Spore. This is surprising, but it looks like he's handling it pretty well. 3 kills so far, and if he gets the Oracle... Okay, well... What could have been a terrible scenario for Snute very quickly turning into a minor victory. Losing 4 drones for the Oracle? I'll take it, 100%. Especially with the second one coming in. He didn't lose any queens or anything. Not too much mining time. A bit sloppy from Hellraiser. Gonna make it a little more difficult. Having 2 oracles gives you the ability to tag, but also the threat of doing damage to units. Like if there's a roach all incoming or something, a single oracle doesn't really have the energy to do both. You can't keep track of units, and also at the same time have the threat of just burning through them eventually. Is that a Forge, a Twilight? No Robo just started. Changeling coming in. The probe. Oh my, that was gruesome. But it doesn't seem... Well, Snute is getting roach speed. If he did want to, now would be about the time to pull the trigger on a brick-flavored all-in. That was a weird combination of words. I know. But what I mean is a roach all-in that is designed to hit. Now, Snute saw everything. We're looking at Snute working with perfect information, essentially. He knows it was open. He opened with a Stargate. He's taking a quick third. He's getting a Forge and a Twilight and a Robo, and he knows all of these timings. And now Snute has to decide, which direction am I going? He's decided, okay, I'm not going to go just for an all-in, which is risky. Maybe he makes a Void Ray, and then the Roach Ravager eventually gets burned down. Instead, we have a a Spire, rather. Barely hidden. Gotta be careful not get that Queen too close to the Spire. And then a Hydra is done. It looks like, I think this is not, for Mutas, this is a bold call to make, but I'm thinking like 5 or 6 Corruptors in this scenario, and then immediately you go into like Hydras. I'd love to see that. Dark has been playing around with that. And, well, actually he saw there wasn't Double Star, so I'd still love to see the Corruptor. Honestly, I just want to see Corruptors. And now, well, I knew as soon as I was saying it, it sounded wrong. Snoot's gonna go with the Mutas. How many gates? How many gates are we building here? 5, 10 gates! 10 gates! Many gates! And Hellraiser has stopped producing probes. This is essentially a 3-base all-in, something that kind of went out of style. It isn't out of style, but hasn't been as common since Legacy of the Void and the way the economies work. But with no gases at the 3rd. The Mutas are on the way across, but... So, this is an awkward scenario where Hellraiser is not going to have anything to defend, but the same may be true for Snute on the other side. Now, does he recall? That's the question. Right now, is there a recall? No. Forward is the choice. Hellraiser cannot go home. He doesn't even have the units. Archons are never going to catch up to those Mutas. It's not going to happen. He has to attack. That's the only way. Alright, now this is going to get a little wild. Does Snute have what it takes to defend? That's more than enough army supply to break through this base. The drones are already pulled. Some stop position being used to muck up the AI of the units. A handful of Hydras trying to come down the ramp. The Chargelet's doing a pretty good job. A big warp in coming up. 20 probes have fallen thus far, but so have 20 drones as well. Trying to get the Warp Prism, the lifeline, and reinforcements. He does get it, but at what cost? The Archon's still burning through. The Oracles come in with what little energy they have and try to break through the lines. A handful of Archons left. Does he have a Guardian Shield or some Force Fields? I don't know, but the Archon count is starting to thin out. The Charge Lots are chasing. Snute down to 45 workers. No bases have fallen quite yet. The Mutas, it looks like, are being handled as well with a Stalker Warping. Drones taken off the line. 26 drones go down. No hatcheries and no Nexi have been taken out. And both attacks, in a very unlikely turn of events, have been repelled at heavy cost. They've both just clocked each other in the face here. But it does look like it's relatively even. Snute down on workers, but has more production and army on the field. Whereas Hellraiser was able to hold on, but lost the complexity of his army with Immortals. Well, he didn't have Immortals, but Archons and a Warp Prism and all that. He has to just defend now. Yeah, the Roaches, they have +1. There's a handful of Hydras, but... And even with some Oracles there, I don't know if Snute's going to have really the ability to break through. An Immortal is a no. Alright, with one Immortal out, there's no longer that option. So, we've kind of hit the reset button. In an interesting turn of events. Snute has redroned behind this. He knew, one, Hellraiser doesn't have any more aggressive potential. He invested in Phoenixes, the Warp Prism was killed, most of the tech units besides the Oracles went down. But two, committing all out to an attack would be kind of throwing away the advantage he has. Right now, well, for that moment, Snute had map control. That means, essentially, Hellraiser could not move out and threaten him. So, investing in more units would have been kind of gambling that you can kill him. But now, we should see a Lurker den, right? Oh. I swear I didn't see it in the production tab. because Hellraiser still has an economy. He held on to the third Nexus, which was pretty big. And that means he's still going to have a healthy amount of income. And there's an attack coming again. We're going for round 2. I'm not sure how many rounds this will last, but the first one was right on the edge of killing either player. Well, but they both just barely held in one of the most even trades I have seen. Just going to throw a Ravager in there. That means Snute just looking for other options. That's a lot of charge loss. +2 attack is done on the ground. The Lurker Den is not ready. A Changeling coming up. That's a lot of Roach Hydra, but is it enough? Group spawns are done for the Hydras. He's going to try to get a spread. If you can arc out these units so there's not a lot of splash damage, the charges are trickling in rather than overwhelming you. Hellraiser, that's a scary Protoss army. But Snute's setting up his defense. He knows it's coming. There's a handful of sentries for force field in the back. He has 1 or 2 Ravagers, maybe for breaking this. Just the single Ravager. He's going to break the force fields at the front. But the Hydras are now vulnerable. Most of the Roaches on the left side. Picks up the Ravager. Hydras getting beaten back, but the Roaches are going to turn the flank onto the Immortals. The Stasis Ward hits a lot of the Roach Hydra. Drones once again called into the fray. Without that Stasis Ward, this would be pretty one-sided for Snute at this point. But it looks like Hellraiser going to take something of a trade. He's going to have to get out of here before the units come out of stasis. That stasis is so clutch. Well, actually, a round of charge lots coming in. The Warp Prism pretty far out. This one not getting taken out. The units come out of stasis. Hellraiser going to press the attack, but the Roach Hydra has consolidated into too strong a force. Snute losing another round of drones. He's lost 56 drones in this game. He's down to 43, but now his army is coming across the map, and the Lurker Den is done. A couple Lurkers could make all the difference here. There are 0 Immortals on the field. He's just now warping Archons. There's no Storm, and just getting gas is 5 and 6. Snute? Does he really go home? I mean, he doesn't. He has to redrone. 16-bit is so hard to just attack. If he had maybe a couple Dropper Lords or something, even focusing on mineral mining instead of gas. But this is where things get a little dicey. Charge lots starting to trickle in. And he can't afford to move too many units away. Snute, I think Hellraiser, the Stasis Ward, kind of turning the tides there. Snute trying to... Now, it's a very large map. If he can hold on and Lurkers... There's no Storm. He's already got a Spire, which is important if we go to the later game and are looking at a hive for things like Broodlords. But it does look like we're going to settle down a little. Once the Lurkers are out in great enough number, if there's not Storm or a ridiculous Immortal count, like... Okay, we'll say a reasonable. Ridiculous is like 12. A reasonable Immortal count is 6 or 7. And last I checked, 1 is significantly less than 6 or 7. We got 4 Lurkers. Looks like he's... Oh, he's not even going to keep any at the back. He knows how dangerous this is. Some Changelings coming out. Hellraiser should be taking a 4th base behind this as well. That Changeling going to get a really big scout here. The army's moving out. Upgrades 2-2. All the Hydra upgrades done. Is there an observer? 0 observers. Wait, okay, 1 observer. I can't count. Oh, I love that. An evolution chamber is something of a wall. Where is the observer? It's coming across now. He can't attack. He cannot attack into this without detection. Yep, gotta turn around. An Oracle on the way for that revelation. More Lurkers coming up. Snute knows this means he doesn't have detection. But here comes the ops. Oh, getting the Warp Prism. At least he stops the Warpins. It's going to be a little bit of a pain to defend. Now all this coming in from quite a concave. The Lurkers can shred through. Oh god. Oh, so many drones were killed in the making of this game. 68 now. Snute back down. Well, he's actually at 61. He's making 16. Oh, would you calm down? I don't know. Would you calm down? But yeah, Storm on the way. Immortals. Now, are we going to see a Fleet Beacon or another Robo from Hellraiser? I feel like you need to have one of them in order to deal with this. But, oh, Snute not really paying attention. There's no Lurkers with this. This army will crush through anything that doesn't involve Lurkers. Now, he's actually backed up against a corner. If he wants to try to take a fight, he's got a good tag. This might be the time to pick a fight for Hellraiser, and I think he agrees. He's coming in with charge lots on the other side, trying to draw the army out of position. That means the charge lot's going to get on top of a lot of these drones. He's back down. Well, he's at 65. I keep saying back down, but I neglect to mention that Snute just keeps remaking them. 77 drones now. But without Storm, and the Immortal count's still only at 3. Snute is holding on. The infestation pit just starts. There's a timer on the hive now, but it's still a long way out. Well, Snute has been... If he overdrones a little bit much, like if the lurkers are slightly late, then Snute just dies. This army is so powerful. Charge lots could come in, but lurkers now... He feels like he has enough lurkers, but the storm! Wait. No. Snute sees the Templar, right? There's a tag with Revelation. The charge lots just decide maybe that's not where they want to go. These charge lots going to kind of be wasted. The Immortals with their barriers, the lurkers on their own, they do a lot of damage, but Immortals do even more. We're getting close to 200 supply, though neither player has that endgame carrier or broodlord type attack that we're used to seeing. There's several storms. There's only 4 Templar. 4 storms is a lot, but it's not screw you storms. It's stay away from me storms. It's a little different. Now this base has kind of been cut off here. Not sure what's happening there. The sentries are very important for the Guardian shields as well. A bit of a disjointed fight here from Hellraiser. I don't think he's even cast a single storm yet. And losing some Templar. Remember Snute... Okay, there you go. Snute, one of the experts. One of the best players. As a game goes longer and longer and it becomes more important to be cost effective, that's his specialty. 10 Mutalisks on the way. Going back into the Mutatech. The Mutatech originally used to catch Hellraiser off balance, and now coming in again for a very similar scenario. The Mutas will be able to take out the Prism, but they have to reveal themselves, and there's a Fleet Beacon on the way. He can get Phoenix range, continue to use that. Snute will deflect the harassment, and Hellraiser going to be forced to retreat till he can really put together an army that can deal with this. No, you don't want to lose the Queens. The creep spread about as far as he could have gotten. +3 attack. Pulse crystals on the way alongside, +1 air weapons. But the Mutas have a small window here. He's dragged the army back. This gives Snute time to get a hive. He's holding on to his bases as well. He's taking down the shield batteries, but the Phoenix... Like, I think at this point, you just go for the probes. Like, he's forcing a little bit of micro out here, but... Snute has bought himself space. And that's really what he was looking for almost this entire game. Now he can be aggressive with the tech he needs. Now, that's a powerful Protoss army. There's nothing on the left side to defend, but there's charge lots in the way. I don't know what those 2 Stalkers are doing. A few Roaches going to go down and now begin... Well, it's been a treacherous and twisting path, but we've made it. Carriers are in production. Snute, remember he's had this hive. He is getting +2 air attack. He now has 73 drones and 5 bases. Well, his main is mined out, but that is a very healthy economy. Yeah. Okay, well, that tells you the story. Immediately, did he actually cancel? He canceled +2 air attack. That's how important the Greater Spire is to him. Now, the Phoenixes can be helpful in protecting the carriers, but... Not against Hydras. Not so much against the Hydras. He doesn't know how many lurkers are lurking there. And a Nidus network. And 6 Spore Crawlers. Here you go. You see it. We're at that point where Snute says, I have the army, but I might not be able to end it. So he's teching straight up. Now, at the same time, to his credit, Hellraiser's doing the same thing. He's got carriers on the way. It's gonna... About 6 carriers is when that becomes a deadly amount. Anything under that, and the Hydras just kind of kill all the interceptors, and it's almost wasted supply. Anything over that, and you might actually have too many carriers, and your ground army might get overwhelmed. Usually 6 to 8 carriers is the money number, unless you've just been going straight like Carrier Templar, and that's it. Alright. some Roach Hydra out there. This is partially freeing up supplies. Snute is banking up money. And at the same time, Hellraiser, he doesn't really want these Phoenixes. So, oh, the base. Can he actually take it out? I don't think. He's cutting through. What a save! That's actually pretty huge. Hellraiser now, with that base mine, he now has 2 essentially fresh bases mining. So, I mean, not a huge blow to Snoop. He didn't need to kill that base. It would have been nice, but it wasn't a requirement because he has money in the bank. He's getting all the tech, and he knows that right now Hellraiser is essentially tied. He's gonna... Are you gonna reshield it? Do it. Do it. Hellraiser. Hellraiser. One of those strategies that mostly Twitch chat grandmasters think about as opposed to like a real strat. He's reshielding his base with shield batteries. But now we're here. The late game. Not the end game. The end game is when we're mining out of the map and nobody can mine anything anymore. And we've been there before, but we're at the late game. The supreme late game, as half of a casting Archon would call it. Infestors, Spore Crawlers, Lurkers, lots of upgrades against Carrier, Skytoss, Templar, Immortals. Very potent armies on both sides. And if you slip in your control at all, you can just lose outright. There's so much damage potential on both sides here. Storms are, of course, a massive... Oh, is it Nidus time? Throw it! Whip it down! What does he have in the Nidus network? Nothing. I mean, is he going to be able to drag the army back with that? He's going to go... Oh, put Lurkers into the main. Is this the play? Backstab him and then force him into an all-in? The Lurkers are going to... Okay, a handful of Hydras. Make their way out. That's going to force a warp in. Well, he's going to get... Okay, he gets a Stargate. Can go for the Templar Archives. Kill around a charged Lance, and Hellraiser being dragged back across the map. He can get back in the Nidus. All right, big place. Is there detection? Yes, that answers that question. There's a tag, and he's like, oh, God. Neural Parasite. Not a bad counter to the carriers if you get in position. We will have to say 12 more spores on the way. Now, you might be like, wow, he's going to be at, like, he's going close to 50 spores. The record of spores I've ever seen in a match, in any match, was Snute in a game on Backwater that mined out the entire map, and I believe he hit about 120 spore crawlers simultaneously. Not total, simultaneously. So will he be breaking his record today? Who knows? The great... They want to see 40 spores. And it hasn't just been... This has been a slugfest. A lot of units have died on both sides. It hasn't been a passive game where both sides just build up to their late game pieces. No, no, no. It's been a hard-fought battle to make it this far. There's been a lot of investment. And now here's the beauty. Spore crawlers do not cost supply, and they can move. I say that kind of with quotation marks, but they can move. So, making it the ultimate supreme late-game cost-effectiveness. We got Stasis Wards timing out. There's still a Stalker, some Roach Hydra on the left side. This base still has 60 HP, but 1,000 shields. And he's you know, this is how you know you've reached the late game, when Immortals are being sacrificed. I mean, he's not just throwing them at him, okay? But he is getting rid of the Immortals. He's going to try to kill as many bases as possible, but the Immortals are marked for death. And a handful of Hydras are not going to save it. And now the siege begins. Now, Interceptors cost money. These Immortals, oh my god, they're just blasting through. Okay, the Hydras clean it up, but they take their pound of flesh. You ever notice that Immortals are just Dragoons with a turret on top of it? What is this? Oh, Did he just use a strategic recall of probes? In order to... Wait, why? From the mothership? I don't... He's not... And that... I don't know if that was a... Did he mean to recall with the Nexus instead of the mothership? I'm not entirely sure. What? And also, why are these force fields invisible? I don't... Anyways, we have Ultralisk on the way, and Ultralisk... Well, Immortals don't just counter Ultralisk. Immortals counter Ultralisk like, I'm trying to think of a good comparison here. Like water on a grease fire, or electric grease fire, is it? One Immortal looks at an Ultra, and then the Ultra just spontaneously combusts. That's usually what happens. But the Immortals are gone. So, suddenly, the Ultras can come out to play. In a weird turn of tech and event... Oh my god, the great Spore Crawler migration. He's moving forward. Will he... Oh, that's a lot of intercept. He's got 126. Oh, but the Fungals! He's actually... The interceptor count dipping. Not that dramatically, but... This is peak Snute right here, everyone. This is the comfort zone. Both players with some money in the bank, but they cannot remake their armies. If either of them takes a significant loss, that army will not be rebuilt. The battle begins. The lions are drawn in the creep. He's just sending out a handful. You don't want to send out too little interceptors, though. Oh, he's getting very close. The Templar are too close. Whoa, going real deep in the paint. The Fungal's coming up. Can he neural parasite the mothership? It's dangerously close. He's trying to break through. The tags are coming out. He can see all the Brood Infestors. There are no Templar left. It's just carriers. The Golden Armada is trying to break through. The Interceptor's struggling. The Interceptor count dipping to 75. They're going to have to rebuild. He lost all of the Templar to the Broodlords. I don't know if that was worth it. The Templar, the potential for storms, and this is where the Ultras come out to play. Here you go. He's even got a couple Queens over here. This base is gone. There's still about 1,000 gas remaining. He's breaking through. Is there enough energy on the Infestors, though? The Spore Crawlers are being broken down. Lurkers with them. He's given up some ground. There's not enough energy for Neural Parasite here. He's committed fully to the Sky Toss. The carriers are burning through. Snute doesn't have any... He has to retreat. This base will fall. But here come the Lings and the Ultras. Will there be a recall? That's the question. Does he recall the mothership and then use that for spot defense? I don't know. Lurkers and... Snute is now building... Well, Corruptors. They have extra damage against Massive. He has +3. And there's no Storm left. The Corruptors... Are there going to be enough, though? Are we going into a base trade? Because there's... Hellraiser is in this weird scenario where he essentially can't build any more units because they're all tied up. Now, mining bases are about to be threatened. Infested Terrans come up. Is he actually going to try to kill all the Interceptors? It looks like that isn't the intent. There's no way the carriers... Well, the carriers can't really work through the Ultras very well. They have +3 Carapace and Chitinous Plating. This base should fall. The Interceptor is giving a deep tissue massage to the Ultras. The carrier's on their way back. Snute now mining from the top left. He should be re-expand... Oh, he's... Snute doesn't have that much money. Like, another Templar Archives goes down. Snute does not have very many minerals. Like, we're in a very odd scenario here where... Oh, Archon's coming up just in time. The Archon's a beautiful choice. Snute is actually bleeding out. It seems this has definitely not gone the way he wanted. And the charge lots kill the base. Suddenly, the Infestors have very little energy. Hellraiser, it looks like he's just gonna burn through with the Sky... 20 carriers! 20 carriers! You don't stop that! Unfortunately for Snute, it seems he didn't quite have the engagements he was looking for. I mean, he can fungal all the Interceptors he wants, he can throw out all the infested Terrans he wants, but that doesn't make it enough. He didn't quite have the bank he needed. Maybe the Ultras and Lings a little bit early there. It really looked like he would be able to hold the Spore Crawler line, but Hellraiser just went straight forward and punched through. Well, really... Well, how many units died? There were over 1,000 units died. Of course, that includes things like interceptors, of which, how many died? 230. But over 1,000 units perished over those 30 minutes.
I have your attention.
So, 127 zealots, 100 drones, 44 spores, 230 interceptors, but just not quite enough for Snute to break through. He was putting the pieces together. He just didn't have the bank to be able to get the knockout blow. Unfortunately for him. Oh, that was a lot louder than I expected.